What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six podcast. Katie Mox and Will Brinson here, joined by Sportsline's finest RJ White and Alex Selelnick. If you like winning picks, make sure you sign up at sportsline.com and use the code PICK, P-I-C-K, to get your first month for just $1. If you missed the last episode, Brinson, Brady, and Ligier talked Super Bowl odds. You can check it out on our YouTube channel or anywhere that you get your podcasts. Today, we finally made it, you guys. It is the first day of the NFL season. We're going to go through every game on the Week 1 slate and give out our best bets. Please note, everyone, though, that lines and odds are subject to change all the way up until kickoff. We're hitting these lines at about 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, so make sure that you check with your book before tailing any of these bets. Guys, welcome to the 2023 season. How are we feeling?
Glad it's finally here.
Glad it's finally here. RJ and Propstarz, I do want to say one thing. It's the first game of the season. Maybe there's some new bettors that are listening to us or people that bet all the time. What are some tips that you guys have for the first week of betting? Because you could look at last year's stats, you could look at the preseason, but this is really the baseline for this season. So any advice you guys have? We'll start with you, RJ.
Yeah, there's two lines of thought. So one, these are the sharpest lines you're ever going to see because people have been betting into them for months. So it's going to be harder to beat them if the market is correct on the strength of these teams. And that's point two. This is when I have the most success early in the season because I dig into these teams so much throughout the offseason that I think I have the edge, thinking certain teams are better than worse than the market does. So you take advantage of that. You can have a lot of success early in the season, even in week one, even against lines that have been bet, so thoroughly by the market at this point.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, guys, I'm primarily betting almost exclusively player props, and that's a completely different strategy. These lines are going to be the softest, in my opinion, early in the season. So the majority of my betting volume is going to take place over the first kind of 30 to 40% of the year. Probably week one, I'll end up finishing with something between 25 and 40 picks on props. So taking advantage of a very soft market, especially early as the season progresses, the books tend to catch up a bit. So this is where you'll see the majority of my volume.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things is like I think early season betting is interesting from two factors. One, it's like, everybody has their priors and their takes and their not biases, but sort of like what, your beliefs about how the NFL season is going to play out. And if you are correct, you have to determine pretty quickly if you're right or wrong about some of those preconceived notions, and you have to like adjust your priors pretty quickly. If let's say you think the Ravens are going to be incredible on offense with the Todd Monken system, and they and like you're leaning into that, or vice versa, you think they might struggle because they're switching to a new system. Like you need to be ready to adjust that within the first couple of weeks on really every team, because teams that we don't think they're going to be good are going to be good, and teams that we think they're going to are going to stink might be good, or might be, or teams that we think would be good could end up stinking. It's just something you have to adjust quickly, I feel like.
Yeah, take the example of the Buccaneers last year. Buccaneers, everybody's waiting for them to turn it on at some point. They were like minus 340 to win the division, and they barely won it, and they cashed for those people that bet it, but they did not look good all season, and just betting on them every week to turn it around did not work out for a lot of people.
Definitely did not. All right.
Like when the Rams come out scorching this year, nerds are going to have to readjust your priors.
Okay.
MVP.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Well, that was one of Brinson's bold prediction, is that Matt Stafford would get at least one MVP vote, and it all starts this weekend, right, Brinson?
That's right.
No Cooper Kupp. The storyline's there.
Yeah, I'm not really thrilled about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be thrilled about it either. All right, one other thing I'm not really thrilled about. I mean, I am thrilled, and I'm not. Let's start with the first game we're going to talk about. Niners at Steelers. Niners laying 2.5. This total 40.5. Two of the best defenses in the league, as we know. Nick Bosa got paid, and then some. $171 million. We have two of the highest paid defensive players of all time on the field with him and T.J. Watt. Brinson and RJ, y'all are on the Steelers side of this. So we'll start with you, RJ. Why are you taking the points here?
Yeah, I think the San Francisco offensive line might be a weakness outside of left tackle. Pittsburgh has that elite pass rush, and they can knock around Brock Purdy. And will he have success under pressure that he didn't face a lot of time last season if the offensive line isn't elite? He's practicing in full, but he may not be 100%. We'll see how that elbow looks over 4 quarters. You got George Kittle dealing with a groin issue. He probably plays, but he's not 100%. And the Pittsburgh offensive line also has question marks. Bosa can rip him up too, but his snaps might be limited coming back there. So I don't know. Pittsburgh can make this an ugly defensive game, pull off a shocker. I think I'm also lean to the under. It's now 41.5. I don't know why it's gone up because Bosa's coming back, but
right
over that key number of 41, I would lean to the under there. But I think Pittsburgh plus 2.5. They're a lot better than people expect or consider based on Pickett's performance last year. He's going to be better this year, so I think that they're going to pull off a shocker here.
Yeah, I think a couple of things here. One, how about Nick Bosa signs his contract? He's guaranteed to play week 1, and the line moves half a point away from the Niners because it was San Francisco minus 2.5. That is so much suspicious. Like that is this a little stinky when something like that happens. And as RJ points out, the total goes up. I think we've seen Kyle Shanahan teams and the Niners sort of struggle in these road games. You think back, I know that Chicago game was weird. Trey Lance was starting, tons of rain and all that. We just seen him sort of come out a little flat in week 1 at times. And I think this is a season for Pittsburgh where people are on Pittsburgh in the sense of like taking their totals and thinking they're kind of a longer shot and like a sleeper for the playoffs. But they're being treated as like by far the 4th best team in this division. And it's possible that they can go win this division if Kenny Pickett takes some kind of big leap forward. I don't know that he's going to take this massive leap, but the offensive line has really improved. They have tons of weapons. George Pickens is going to be a monster. And then defensively, they should be stout there. I think Mike Tomlin does a really good job, just as a head coach in general. And I think Pittsburgh will just be – I think Pittsburgh have a little chip on their shoulder here with the Niners getting all this hype, all this attention. Pittsburgh sort of flying under the radar, and you're catching 2 at home with what should be a much better Steelers team than people anticipate. I will take the Steelers. I think the Steelers win outright.
Yeah, look, I obviously hope that you guys are wrong as a 49ers fan. But I don't hate these picks either. Like you guys both said, Shanahan offenses tend to start a little bit slower. The Steelers haven't lost their home opener in 3 years. Kenny Pickett has looked really good. I also, RJ, am on the under in this one, under the 41. These are 2 of the best defenses in the league. I do think it probably might take a little bit for Brock Purdy to kind of get up and running, especially when you got TJ Watt coming after you. So I will lean to the under in this one as well. I will say that the Niners gave up about 16 points per game last year. The defense and the Steelers average about 20. So that is hitting under this mark.
Yeah, and I've got a player prop from this game that I am very excited about. I gave this out on the Sportsline site already, so if you are a member, you would have had access to at least 5 or 6 yards of closing line value. But that is Brandon Ayuk over 46.5 receiving yards. I believe the current number is somewhere between 52 and 54. But I love this spot for Ayuk, coming off a career year last year, 1,000 yards, nearly 100% route participation with Brock Purdy. He's really firmly established himself as one of the really good, very young wide receivers in the NFL. We mentioned George Kittle not being 100%. There's a chance he misses the game if he does suit up, may not be out there running routes at the degree you'd want him to be. So that should funnel some more targets potentially to Ayuk. And yeah, I really feel this number at 46.5, way closer to Ayuk's floor than his ceiling. The market would certainly agree considering the numbers up to 53, 54. So yeah, this is a really good spot to back Ayuk in my opinion.
Nice grab there on that. The value, those player props, man, you got to get them early too. And it's like the good news about the player props too is they started coming out earlier now because there's more options. These books want to get the action, so they put them up early. And so make sure and check out Sportsline. Use promo code PICK.
Yes.
This month for $1. Panthers at the Falcons. I got to pick up on Sportsline. Not all of them, RJ. I'll get them all up soon. But I got to pick for Thursday night up. Proud of me for doing that, aren't you?
Be prouder if you had them all up.
I know. I had some stuff. I'll try and do them during the show. But first, Panthers at Falcons. Falcons are minus 3.5 here. Actually getting juiced a little bit towards Atlanta as well. Total 49.5. This is one of those games. I mean, when I see the total down 39.5, excuse me, not 49.5. But you got this 2 teams in the NFC South where I'm excited for these teams. I don't know if that's because it's me being in this, living in North Carolina and living in the South type of thing, or being really high on the Falcons situation. But I think I'm really interested to see both Bryce Young and Bijan Robinson, in this game. I mean, we got, we're talking 2, the first overall pick, and then a guy who's taken the top 10, who's like the expectations, his season-long player rush total is like 1,150 yards. That's insane for a rookie. He's the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year. Bryce Young's the next closest favorite. And I think it's just interesting because the Falcons have gotten a lot of attention this offseason. Carolina's gotten a lot of attention for their offensive line and the concerns that has there. And you see that 3.5, Atlanta minus 3.5. For me, this is too many points. It's a divisional matchup in week 1 with two teams that we know we kind of like, but we don't know that much about. So I'm going to Panthers plus 3.5 as one of my best bets. Do you have anything here, RJ?
I would lean that way. The thing that kept me away was the top 3 Carolina receivers dealing with injury. I don't know if we see Thielen or Chark in this game, and that's a problem for the rookie quarterback. Maybe Jonathan Mingo goes off for a massive game, and we look back and this was his coming out party as a number 1 receiver. But you got to see it to believe it. So very low total in the game, 39.5. I think that's what leads me to a smaller margin of victory. So I would take the plus 3.5. But because of those receivers, I didn't want to play it.
All right, moving on to the next game. Texans at the Ravens. This is, I think, the only double-digit spread of the weekend. Yeah, Ravens laying 10 here. Obviously, we know that the Texans are pretty banged up. This one is going to be on CBS Sports Network at 1 p.m. Also streaming on Paramount Plus, so make sure that you grab it there. Houston Texans plus 390 on the money line if you're feeling frisky, minus 510 for the Ravens. 40.
I'm high on the Texans. We're not feeling that frisky.
43.5. Yeah, is the total. What were you gonna say, Brinson?
Well, I was gonna say, I keep coming back to these week 1 games that we've seen from Lamar and even the Greg Roman offense. I think Todd Monk is gonna want to show out and pull. I think the Ravens and John Harbaugh are unafraid to just obliterate somebody in the first week of the season. And so I want to take the Texans. I think the 10 is intriguing, but all I can think about is just watching Lamar heave bomb after bomb down the field to this new group of receivers and just knowing that what a mistake it was to get involved with Houston here.
Yeah, my power ratings have it at minus 12, and I would play the Ravens if I thought that we would get the Ravens, but I'm not sure you're right on that sense. I think with Cincinnati at Cincinnati in week 2, why not save some of their new wrinkles for that game? Why not just go out and put in a workman's-like effort, go out and beat Houston by 7, by 6, whatever it takes. I wanted to play this anyway, though. I want to play Houston's team total under 16.5. This is a very tough test for C.J. Stroud in his debut. Baltimore's defense, 3rd in points per game allowed last year. Going to be great again this year. Baltimore's not deep at cornerback, and I think Humphrey's dealing with an injury, but it's not like Houston has the receivers to take advantage of it. Some of the least proven receivers in the league. Baltimore's new look offense could light them up, but I don't know that they show it. I'm a lot more strong playing the under on Houston's team total at 16.5.
And I'm going to back Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins over 56.5 rushing yards. I love this spot for the running back. Really thought he came on strong over the last 4 games last season. Had that devastating knee injury in the 2021 season. Had a tough time working his way back. But yeah, looked fully explosive. Looked very healthy over the final quarter of the season. Had a rush for 99 yards per game, yards per carry of over 7 yards. That was without Lamar Jackson as well on the field. John Harbaugh declared that Dobbins is 100% healthy coming into the season. I think that's reflected with the depth chart as well. Not a lot of competition for touches behind Dobbins, really just Gus Edwards and a bunch of guys. So I love this spot against a Texans defense that gave up the most rushing yards to opposing running backs last year. I think Dobbins is a lock to get 15 carries in this game, which will certainly be enough to eclipse 57 rushing yards.
59-10 is the game I always think about, is against the Dolphins in that week 1 in 2019. Lamar's first season as a starter. It was just oh God, it's the gif of he's stop it, with the Simpsons one where they're pointing, they're he's stop, he's dead already. And then they beat up on Cleveland 38-6 the next season. It lost to the Raiders in 2021, but then last year 24-9 against the Jets. So it's just we just see, John Harbaugh's an Andy Reid guy. I'm not saying that always. There's a lot of Andy Reid, coaches out there. Just that prep for week 1 always feels like Harbs is well prepared coming in there. The Bengals, who you mentioned, RJ, are at the Browns in week 1. There's a lot of AFC North head-to-head matchups in the early part of the season. That division's going to be shook up pretty early on. Total 48. This is also on CBS Sports and streaming on Paramount Plus. It's a mountain of entertainment. If you didn't hear.
Love that.
Katie, do you have a feel on this game at all? I know we sort of talked about. Actually, wait, do you have a lock on this game? You like the Bengals?
I like the Bengals. Well, first of all, we already know that Breach and I have a Super Bowl ticket on the Bengals, so that all starts this weekend. And look, the Battle of Ohio hasn't exactly gone in Cincy's favor. The Browns have won 5 of the last 6 head-to-head matchups. But when you look at the offensive firepower on Cincinnati versus the Browns defense, it's a little bit banged up right now. I give Cincinnati a lot of this edge here. Joe Burrow coming back. He's healthy. They've got healthy people around him. He said he's been bored for the last 6 weeks. He's better to get out there. Of course, they know, he hasn't been able to beat the Browns or, the only one time in the last 6 years. And I also don't believe in Deshaun Watson all that much. Either he's going to be great or he's not going to be so great. I do think it's going to take him a little bit of time to get up and swinging. The fact that the Bengals are under a field goal, I have no problem laying that 2.5.
Yeah, I also lean that way. If Burrow's healthy, I think the line can be other side of 3, and he's practicing in full, so it looks like he's healthy. And that's after I adjusted the power rating up to make Cleveland +1, so I wasn't too harsh on them because I think I've been pretty down on Cleveland. And that's assuming Deshaun Watson can get back to being close to his old self, and he better be his old self because Lou Anarumo can shut him down if not, with the defenses that he throws out there. Since he's offense predicated on the quick passing game, will neutralize some of the Cleveland defensive front, and they can pick on the cornerbacks, which I think are the weakness of the team. So I think it's hard for Cleveland to win with Chubb and their superior offensive line if Cincinnati's able to put up those points with that quick passing game. So I think they'll put up 24+. I would lean towards Cincinnati. The only thing that worries me is that we know these divisional dogs in week 1 tend to do pretty well. And this is especially on the road for Cincy. Although, it's not like you have to travel a lot prior to week 1. So everybody's going to be rested and fine here.
Is there a trend there on the dog, especially division dogs in week 1? Because the NFL, and maybe it's hard to say but the NFL shifted to have more divisional games. They want to stack them at the end of the season, but they also had these matchups in week 1 that it seems like they want to have. Am I remembering that incorrectly? Like you want to take the points generally, right?
I can't quote the record, but I know it's dangerous taking a lot of favorites in week 1 because it's very heavily to the underdogs.
Alex, any thoughts on that general trend for underdogs in week 1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally really interested to see this Cleveland passing offense. Did not look good at all last year. Obviously, when Watson took over, he was playing, I think, worse than Jacoby Brissett was. So, yeah, I'm taking a wait-and-see approach personally with this Cleveland team until I kind of see how this offense looks. I like what they did in the offseason quite a bit, like a lot of the pieces they added both offensively and defensively. But, yeah, kind of just see if Deshaun kind of mimics the quarterback that we saw who was a perennial MVP candidate in Houston, or if he looks like the guy that had that long layoff and just did not look good.
Yeah, he was real bad last year. One thing just worth noting, the Bengals just haven't blown anybody out in Joe Burrow's first. Yeah, they lost to the Chargers in week 1. The famous, he missed for podcast David Tates. I don't even, actually, I'm so rusty on my drop shit. I'm not even sure which button it is. I don't feel like screwing it up. They snuck by the Vikings in OT in 2021, and then last year they lost in OT to the Steelers. So, and one of those things we saw, Burrow sort of coming in like either on a pandemic or coming off an injury, and so they did try to run the ball a little bit, maybe more, and sort of like a less of a high flying offense early in the season. There's something to think about. With the history there with Burrow and the Bengals. We got more games on the early slate to talk about. But first, Sunday, the NFL and CBS kicks off our Super Bowl season with a week 1 doubleheader, and we can't wait. The early games feature the Bengals taking on the Browns, and Jalen Hurts leads the defending NFC champion Eagles against the Patriots. It all begins at noon Eastern with the NFL Today. All hail Sunday. The NFL is on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. We'll look at a few more of those games coming up next after the break.
All right, welcome back to the Pick Six podcast. One more game looking at the 1 p.m. slate. Bucks at Vikings. Vikings laying 6 here, total 45.5. This is another game on CBS Sports and streaming on Paramount Plus. RJ, well, first of all, we've got no bets on this game. So curious what you think, RJ. I'm sure you have a lean on this one, but look, I mean, the Buccaneers under Baker Mayfield, like we don't really know what that team's going to look like. The Vikings could be the biggest frauds of last season. They did win a lot of single score games, but they're only 7-10-1 against the spread last season. Would you give the Vikings 6 here?
Yeah, it's actually coming down. It seems like the sharps are betting Tampa Bay and bringing it down. It's 5.5 at some places. It's even 5 at some places. So I that seems to be the way it's trending. My lean would be toward the Vikings anyway. Thing is, I know it's hard to trust them after seeing that defense stumble last year, but Brian Flores matters. I've been a big proponent on this podcast over the years of coaching matters and coaching changes matter. And I think that having him in there coordinating the defense is going to make them a lot less, let people score in the second half and come back and put these 2-score games into 1-score games. So I think the strong Minnesota front's going to attack the weak Tampa Bay offensive line, pressure Baker Mayfield. He doesn't do well under pressure. The run offense for Tampa isn't that much to write home about. So you don't have Tom Brady to cover up the holes there. I think Minnesota's pass offense is good enough to beat the Tampa Bay defensive backs. Offensive line has the edge on Tampa Bay's defensive line too. So I think everything kind of points to Minnesota here, but the market disagrees. I wouldn't play the Bucs. I think if you're going to play them in the first half plus 3.5. Because Minnesota did not play Kirk Cousins at all in the preseason. We've seen with quarterbacks in the past, they come out a little rusty when they don't play in the preseason. So if you're going to attack it, I would attack Buccaneers first half or play the Minnesota once the line settles at 5.5. I go get 5 right now if you want to do that.
Any thoughts here, Alex?
Yeah, I've got my eye on second-year running back Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Bucs. This rush offense was absolutely pitiful last year. Averaged 75 rushing yards per game. That was significantly lower than, I think, 20 yards lower than the team with the second worst rushing offense. So pretty much only way you can go up is up when you're that bad. I think Rachaad White is going to be the featured back. His rushing line is out at 44.5 rushing yards. I think that is too low. I think he's going to get 12 to 15 attempts against this Vikings defense, which I think has a lot of holes. So that's kind of one area that I'm looking towards. I think Rachaad White could be in line for at least 50 rushing yards. Yeah.
I mean, look, Todd Bowles going to be conservative, man. I mean, he was conservative when he had Tom Brady. Now he's got Baker Mayfield. Like he's not going to come out there and try and win with like a high flying offense. I think the Bucs may be kind of stinky this year. I mean, talk about two teams that like everybody is dying to fade. Maybe the most fadeable team this all season, except for the Arizona Cardinals. Oh boy, Cardinals at the Commanders. Commanders now all the way up to 7-point favorites here. 38.5, a real robust total. I'm always glad when there's not like Katie, when there's not a game that's like when there's a game that like stinks that isn't on CBS. Yeah. So we don't have to like act, like you don't want to be like, I mean, this is just a great game on CBS. You're like lying through your teeth about this particular game.
Yeah. Well, and this is interesting because the total is so low at 38.5, yet you've got a touchdown favorite in the Commanders. So not a lot to say about either of these offenses, but really saying a lot about how poor this Arizona offense is going to be. And look, Brinson, we've been talking about it all off season long. I mean, I think I put a bet in, that they're going to be the lowest scoring team in the NFL. And so that's going to happen and start this weekend. Who is their quarterback right now? Joshua Dobbs. They got rid of Colt McCoy. Kyler Murray, of course, still injured, not going to be ready. I don't know how they're going to score any points here. You got the Commanders at home under new ownership. The vibes are high. And you know that the Washington Commander fans are going to be out there really loud, really, really proud. So I do feel like this is one that I would actually lay the 7.
Yeah, I went. I got two best bets on this. I'm going Commanders first half. I think you can get it. It should be 3.5, right? Yeah, probably roughly 3.5. It should be a first half.
First 7, yeah.
First of all, that's how that works, right? And then you have the Commanders -7. I think I agree with you. The vibes are high. Washington is a better team than people think, and the Cardinals are potentially fooling some folks, Alex, based on what they did in the preseason with some aggressive blitzing, try hard stuff. Jonathan Gannon, man, I don't know. I'm not feeling the vibes there. So I'll take Washington first half and straight up in terms of, against a full game against the spread and first half.
I like them both, Brinson. You mentioned Matt Stafford being your dark horse for MVP potentially. This guy is my dark horse for MVP. Sam Howell. I am all aboard the hype train here. The Commanders quarterback, unbelievably impressive in my opinion. during the preseason. Now gets an absolute phenomenal matchup against an Arizona team, gave up the 8th most passing yards last season in the NFL. Teams had a 4% pass rate over expected against the Cardinals. They were the second biggest pass funnel in the league last year. Terry McLaurin practicing this week, very good indication that he is set to play as well. Jahan Dotson, I'm expecting a big breakout from as well. I think these weapons, these receivers, are certainly elite for how I think he's going to carve this Arizona pass defense up. I expected this line to actually open at 230, 235 yards, so pretty significant edge considering it's at 208. I think it's even 206 on some books. So absolutely love Sam Howell, his prospects week 1 to have a big game going way over 208.5 passing yards.
Breach is a big Sam Howell guy, huh?
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna wear a Sam Howell jersey. We're like, what the hell are you talking about, Breach?
Yeah.
RJ, any thoughts on this game?
Well, I bet Howell to win MVP 200-1, so I like that take.
You did?
Wow.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot, but it's Jalen Hurts is my main bet.
Wait, are you telling me both of you guys are back into Sam Howell for MVP ticket?
Look, I mean, I'm more optimistic in the offense with him. I don't think that he's great, but he's a starting quarterback at 200-1. He was behind guys like, Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey and might be some tight ends in there. I don't know. It's just 200-1. Like, you got to play a starting quarterback who actually looks halfway decent in the preseason at that point. I'll play devil's advocate here. I'm not playing Arizona +7. I just simply can't back Washington as 7-point favorites against anyone until I see it in the regular season. We know in the preseason they face vanilla defenses, and it's not what they're going to see in the regular season. So we'll see if this offense can operate. I mean, Jonathan Gannon leading the charge on defense, known for defense coming from Philly. If you're going to knock Philly for losing its coordinators, you got to think that the Cardinals defense probably has a chance to be solid with him. And Josh Dobbs, if he's starting, which it looks like he is, he showed with Tennessee he can go compete and try to win a game. They took him off the street, and with little preparation, he was out there competing for Tennessee. So with the one play I would like here is with McLaurin banged up, you can get Jahan Dotson anytime touchdown at +175. He is a touchdown scorer. He scored 20% of his catches last year, and I think they're gonna have a lot of chemistry with him quickly. So at +175, that number's way too high to me. I think that's the way to play this game and just root for that touchdown.
All right. Good news for all of us. The Sportsline model is also in the chat, and they love Washington -7 as well. They actually have them projected to win by 10. We'll get their best bet coming up here soon, but it always makes me feel better when the Sportsline model is on my side. Moving on to the next game, Titans at Saints. It is Derek Carr's first game as a Saint, making his debut, and a Titans team that now features DeAndre Hopkins. Saints laying 3, total 41.5. Has that changed? Oh, now it's Saints laying 5. Is that what that says? Or 3?
No, Saints -3, yeah.
-3. I can't. It's really small on my screen.
-3 with catching juice there. So in some spots, so you can see it maybe drift. The juice. Sometimes the juice, it feels like, is all over the place these days with the. It's a weird phrase to say, but it's just like sometimes you see like somebody -3, -112, or it's like I see a depending on what screen you're looking at, Jaguars -4.5, -114, right? Or Jaguars -5. It's just because of the very places where the sports books exist and all the sports books. It's like these lines are just wild how the disparity they have.
Well, you gotta play on this.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got the Titans. This is a coaching play. Everybody's like, oh, Derek Carr, Dennis Allen reunited. Well, they went 0-4 together. They never won a game. Like, Dennis Allen got fired like in Derek Carr's rookie year, I think. I thought they were like, or maybe I swear I thought they were like 4 and or 8-28 together. But whatever the case being, they didn't win a lot of games, if they won any, when they were together in Oakland or Las Vegas. And so it's like, the idea that that's just going to be this magical combination and elixir that's going to work and take the Saints over the top is a little weird to me. And I think the coaching mismatch here is pretty heavy. Excuse me. Mike Vrabel, maybe the most underrated coach in the NFL. I believe he is 7-2 straight up as an underdog over the last 4 years in the first 4 weeks of the season. It just wins games as an underdog, catching 3 points here. The Titans are as healthy as they're going to be all year, like most teams. The Saints have a pretty good roster. I just don't trust that coaching staff. I trust Mike Vrabel. I think Titans getting 3 on the road here. Maybe I think as a whole, everybody's been too down on Tennessee this offseason and maybe a little too high on New Orleans relative to what they could end up being. RJ, I'm curious where Or actually, Alex, you have a best bet on this as well, don't you?
I do. I've managed to mention this guy, I believe, on every single appearance that I've made on the Pick Six, so I couldn't pass up that opportunity. Once again, guys, it's Chris Olave.
Yeah.
I'm just so big on him. We're going over 66.5 receiving yards. That's a big number, admittedly, but this guy is coming off of a historically good rookie season. The efficiency metrics were just absolutely off the charts. 5th in yards per route run. You just don't see that as a rookie. Now facing a Titans defense that was a huge pass funnel, gave up the 3rd most yards to opposing wide receivers last year, behind only the Lions and the Vikings, who were both historically bad secondaries. So I still have a lot of question marks regarding this Tennessee defense. They also have a very stout run defense. So I really think we're going to see the Saints attack them down the field and through the air. Not many teams had success running against Tennessee last year. So I think Olave is going to show out week 1. I think he's in line for just a monster year. I'm willing to play him up to about 72.5 yards in this particular prop. So love his chances to explode with a big week 1 performance.
By the way, and I'm curious what RJ's, where the disparity of your power rankings have those two teams. But I was sitting there with, I had the 12th pick of my main fantasy draft. My team's name is Snack Brown, in case you're curious. Shout out to Mac Brown. But I took Mark Andrews at the end of round 3, and then I was staring like this group of receivers, and all I could think about was like how much like we talked about Chris Olave on this podcast, and I was like, I can't not have some Olave. So I drafted Olave with the first pick of the 4th round over like Higgins, Debo, Calvin Ridley, that sort of group of receivers. So let's
no brainer, Brinson. That's a no brainer at that point. I think that's a great value at the top of the 4th round as well.
Yeah, you talking about my power ratings. I was a little conservative. I think the Titans are better than people expect, but I still have them 1 point behind the Saints. I think a lot of the Saints' positivity on their win total is baked into their schedule being ridiculously easy. So just because they're a 9.5 win total team does not mean they're that strong of a 9.5 win total team as some other 9.5 teams. You know, like I think if everybody loves the Jaguars, I'm not as high on the Jaguars either, but they're a 9.5 team also. Two completely different teams there. But you're right on the Mike Vrabel. I think 24-17-1 ATS as an underdog. Tennessee's weak on the offensive line, but the New Orleans defensive line was awful last year. And they brought in some guys, especially in the middle, to help that out. I don't think that gets fixed in week 1. Derrick Henry can still be the focal point of this offense in this matchup. The Tennessee defense was bad last year. They were extremely injured. I think they might have been the most injured defense in the league. Their talent's going to surprise people, especially getting Hole back in the secondary and adding Sean Murphy-Bunting. That's a big addition to the secondary. If anybody's going to slow down, Chris Olave, it's that guy that's seen him a little bit, in Tampa Bay. So I like Tennessee. I got him at 3.5 for Sportsline members a little while ago before the line moved. At 3, I think you might as well go out, find a money line, play him plus 140, plus 145, because we know how good Mike Vrabel is against as an underdog, even winning these games outright.
Yeah. I love that. All right, moving on. I think this is our first game in the afternoon slate. The Rams at the Seahawks, heading to the NFC West there. The Seahawks are laying 5.5. And we've already brought a little attention to this, but our friends at the Sportsline Model are in the chat. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, they've given a couple free plays, but the model actually loves Seattle minus 5.5. They actually loved it even before Cooper Kupp was expected not to play. They have a score projection of 26-18. You can check out the Sportsline Model show every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern over on the Sportsline YouTube channel. And I have to say that I agree with the Sportsline Model once again. Seattle's going to be good this year. And I'm sorry, Brinson, but the Rams just are not going to be very good this year, especially with Cooper Kupp out. Stafford is losing his number 1 target. One of the best bets in football last year was Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown. People can't bet that today, which is quite a tragedy for the weekend. Look, we've talked about the Seahawks a lot. I think they drafted really well this year. Devin Witherspoon, they got Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Bobby Wagner is back on the right side with his old team. And so I don't see what kind of offensive firepower the Rams are going to be able to put up. And we know that Geno Smith, especially in the first half of the season, is going to be dealing. So give me the Seahawks minus the 5.5. RJ, you also agree with the Sportsline Model.
Yeah, shocked this got down to 4 where we locked it in on Sportsline. Seattle's so much better than the Rams. That was even before the Kupp injury. The Rams had one good playmaker. Now he's out, it looks like. So Rams offensive line is a mess. Defense is unimpressive aside from Aaron Donald. So I don't know what they're going to do well in this game aside from having the whiz kid, Sean McVay, calling the plays there. And maybe that makes all the difference. So we'll see if he gets aggressive with Stafford and starts hitting some big plays to Tutu Atwell and Van Jefferson. Maybe it works in the second half and it closes this gap. But I still like Seattle minus 5.5 out. They're just too good of a team. And you're right. This is the first game we're going over the afternoon slate. Well, there's one game that was so awful you decided to skip it. But I do have a best. I have a best bet in that game, so we'll have to rewind and get that.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell Katie I'll go back to get Jag. Well, and that's probably on me because I did reference the Jags Colts spread at one point while talking about the other game. Because I was just using it as an example of the weird juice thing, and I think that I'll take that L.
I probably just skipped it because you might be the only person into this game, Brinson.
That's right. Yeah, possibly. I will take Rams plus 5.5 though as well. Oh yeah, as a best bet. Sean McVay's 7-5 against Pete Carroll. Since coming into the NFC West, and it's like sometimes there's just these weird sort of. Like these guys in the NFC West just kind of own each other. It's like 7-5 is not owning, but only one time in one of those 5 losses has he lost by more than 5 points. So you just have the ability to keep things close by Sean McVay in the spot. I know that look, the Cooper Kupp injury sucks. That's a big blow. He's out for this game. Definitely made me think about changing my mind on this one. But yeah, Aaron Donald is a freaking animal. Cam Akers looks like he's ready to roll. Like Aaron Donald could take over this game defensively. I think that is entirely possible. I think that we've got a team in the Seahawks that John Schneider, Pete Carroll have done a great job setting up this roster and building this roster through the draft in the last couple of years. And I think Seattle's gonna be good this year. We agreed. I think they're a playoff team, but sometimes in week 1 you just have some weird outcomes, and this has got a little spidey sense for me that the Rams find a way in this one.
I don't know, but
Right.
me, RJ, and the sports line model say differently on that one, Brinson.
Yeah, this may be, and so yes, as does Alex. This may simply be me holding on loosely. Hold on loosely, don't let go. To this idea that the Rams are going to be good. I will not let go. However, the fact that the Jaguars are going to be good. I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to be a team that is in contention for the top seed in the AFC. But lots of people have said that. And it's just a question of, will they start out as hot as we expect them to finish, or will they sort of start slow like they did last year? They're 3-7 at one point. Jaguars minus 4.5 at the Colts, total 45.5. You got a prop bet in this one, don't you, Alex?
I've got 2 actually, Will. So yeah, first up, I'm going to fade Michael Pittman Jr. under 53.5 receiving yards. Anthony Richardson at quarterback for the Colts, an elite athlete, a very, very raw passer. He's got a cannon for an arm, but I think he's going to really struggle in the short and intermediate areas of the football field. That is where Michael Pittman Jr. runs all of his routes. He has one of the most shallow ADOTs, average depth of target, of any starting receiver in the NFL. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a work in progress with these two kind of getting on the same page, especially early in the season. I just don't think that Michael Pittman Jr. is really the optimal fit for a quarterback with Richardson's skill set. So I think fading him under 53.5 receiving yards is a really good look. And then I'm also going to fade the tight end of Jacksonville, Evan Ingram, under 39.5 receiving yards. Had the career year last year, stayed healthy for the whole season, really was a reliable target for Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville. But now Calvin Ridley is on this football team. It's going to be a lot harder to sustain or replicate the 100 targets that Evan Ingram got last year. I think this number is inflated because he kind of was the second option for Trevor Lawrence for the majority of the year. I think those targets are going to be a lot harder to come by now that there's an alpha wide receiver 1 playing in Jacksonville. Still have Christian Kirk, still have Zay Jones. So yeah, I think 40 yards is a bit too high for Evan Ingram in this offense. So like these fades both quite a bit.
Yeah, my play here is the Indianapolis Colts team total under 20.5. 20.5 is a big number for week 1. We've seen some of these other numbers of 16.5, 19.5. And so we're expecting this offense with a quarterback that I think a lot of people don't believe in, especially being good early. It might take a little time to shape him in this offense without his best playmaker in Jonathan Taylor, with this receiver core that might not fit his strengths, as Alex was talking about. To go out and score 21 points against a team that somehow Brinson is saying could be the number 1 seed here, even though they were 4-8 heading into into the stretch last year, won 5 straight games, barely got into the playoffs, I think is kind of overrated in a lot of people's minds. The Indianapolis defense, speaking of early in the season, they played well until December. They could have success here, I think, especially with this Jacksonville offensive line in a bad state. With Gus Bradley's aggression, that should benefit that attacking this Jacksonville offensive line. So I'm not ruling the Colts out of covering this game, but they're not likely to score much because Jonathan Taylor's not there. I'd much rather play the under on 20.5 there instead of the under 45.5 on the full game, just in case the Jaguars do come out guns blazing like Brinson thinks.
RJ, the chat would like to know if you specifically have a code for Sportsline, which you guys can use pick for $1, but do you have a code?
Use pick. RJ didn't get anything by using promo code white. Like, I guess you get
the chat would like to know. The chat has been asking.
Use promo code pick.
It's
Sign for Sportsline, get your first month for $1.
It's superstition. They want to use my promo code because I'm sure that they're tailing my pick. So if you want to use my promo code, use promo code white. It's the same deal. First month for $1. You can use pick also. But yeah, it's WHITE.
Okay, see, he does have one, Brinson. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the rest of the afternoon slate plus Sunday night football, like the Bears and the Packers. It's basically a pick 'em. You got the Bears minus 1.5. No Aaron Rodgers to terrorize them. We'll have those picks coming up after the break.
Here we go. This is all we all been waiting for. Time for some football, baby. Plowing ahead for the touchdown. Oh my gosh, here he goes.
We can't wait for Sunday afternoons.
All right, so Eagles at Patriots. Man, that's the Jim Nance Tony Romo game. That's the big boy in the afternoon spot. CBS, of course, on CBS Sports and streaming on Paramount Plus, a mountain of entertainment. The Eagles laying 4 on the road against the Patriots, the defending NFC champions, head to Foxborough to go up against Bill Belichick and his one quarterback, Mac Jones, in this spot. Look, RJ, I don't know, man. It's one of those week 1 games where I got a spidey sense thing going on, but at the same time, it would be real easy to look at this and think the Eagles could roll here.
Yeah, if Bill Belichick wasn't the coach, they signed him to be 7. I think it's just he deserves respect because he's Bill Belichick. But Patriots team is not that good. Their offensive line already dealing with injuries. Philadelphia, we know what their defensive line can do. It could dominate that matchup there. And Philadelphia's offense, geared by a mobile quarterback. New England's defense had a good year last year, but the mobile quarterbacks gave them trouble. Not just Lamar Jackson, but remember that Justin Fields game, 33-14. Chicago did absolutely everything they wanted to against New England in the game. It surprised a lot of people. I think it was a primetime game, if I remember right. So Philly can come up, use Hurts's mobility, even though he hasn't thrown a lot. I don't think he played at all in the preseason, so he could be a little rusty too. But that offense can go out and score against anyone, including this New England defense. Mac Jones under pressure shouldn't be expected to score a lot of points. I think Eagles win this one running away. They're the best team in the league. They're, I think, more of our writers in that Super Bowl predictions post that went out where you took the Bills, took the Eagles more than anything. And so everybody kind of agrees that they are the best team or one of the best teams. And even on the road against a Patriots team that probably isn't making the playoffs, I think this line should be higher. So I got Eagles -4 as the best bet.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Look, as much as I would like the Eagles to lose this game, I definitely don't think that they are. That 4 points, I agree with you. But also, Jalen Hurts for an anytime touchdown. I mean, on Caesars, today was +115. I'm not sure what it is. I think we're looking at DraftKings right here. It should be like -120. I mean, he had 13 rushing touchdowns last year. If there's anything we know about this game when the Eagles score is that Jalen Hurts is getting into the end zone. So I took him for an anytime touchdown at +115.
I mean, I don't really have a great explanation for why I think the Patriots are going to win this football game.
I think they might cover, but I don't know if that's just my bias.
I just think and I know that Belichick, riding and dying with Belichick has not been very profitable the last couple of years. Granted, the first 20 were pretty good. But the last 2 have been kind of tough. I do think though that this defense for the Pats looks like it might have some serious juice this year, and. We got a new offensive, you lose your offensive coordinator in Philly, and then Nick Sirianni, you got enough consistency there. But you have an offense for the Patriots that was dead last in terms of red zone efficiency and dead last, or red zone scoring, dead last, it was bottom 5 at least in third down conversions last year. And that you take away Matt Patricia and put in Bill O'Brien, even if you don't like Bill O'Brien, this Patriots offense has to be a little bit better. And I think we'll see. I think that the Patriots will keep this close.
Well, let's not forget Tom Brady is being honored. So you got Tom Brady back in there.
Tom Brady hype. Tom Brady lost in the Super Bowl to the Eagles. He's going to want to get him hyped up for that.
Well, and this is basically like Belichick's Super Bowl of the year. We know he's not going necessarily very, very far, if at all, into the postseason. But this is one where he's going to want to put his best defensive foot forward. I don't know what they can do on offense.
I would agree with that.
I think this offense is going to be just have a really hard time scoring points. They were the slowest offense in the NFL last year. Somehow they managed to get even slower in the offseason, adding Juju Smith-Schuster, adding Ezekiel Elliott. I think Ramondre Stevenson of all the starters has the fastest 40 time, and it's like 4.7 something. I think this is just a massive mismatch on paper. I think the Eagles defense is going to dominate the Patriots offense. I just think this Patriots offense is going to struggle all year. This Eagles defense allowed the fewest passing yards in the NFL last year, which was very impressive considering how many big leads they built up and teams were having to throw the ball to play catch up against them. And despite that, they still did just an excellent job limiting opposing passing attacks. I think we'll see Mac Jones really struggle in this matchup. I like fading him. That line open 231.5 has since been bet down to 222. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up settling at like 215. Still think there's some value fading Mac Jones this week.
There's probably always value fading Mac Jones. All right, next game, Raiders at Broncos. You got Jimmy G versus Russell Wilson, two quarterbacks that know each other very well, but in different systems. Broncos laying 4, total 44. This one also on CBS Sports and streaming on Paramount Plus. Did the line change at all here?
It's down to Broncos minus 3.5 in some spots, depending on where you're
some
looking.
places have 4, some have 3.5.
Yeah. RJ, this one, Russell Wilson didn't look that great last year. Obviously now Sean Payton, he should be a lot better. Jimmy Garoppolo, we know he has a winning pedigree. Haven't really seen what he's been able to do with the Raiders. Didn't really play much or at all in preseason. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, you know who believes in Russell Wilson is Sean Payton. He wouldn't have come back if he didn't think that Russ was salvageable. And I'll trust the future Hall of Fame coach over, my evaluations any day. Vegas invested in pass catchers in the offseason, but Denver's secondary is elite. And if you roll in there with some good pass catchers, I think they can shut you down in that sense too. This line has come down over the summer because Jerry Jeudy's hurt. Josh Jacobs is back. I think it's good value on Denver if you're getting the 3.5 because it's not going to get to 3. They do great at home in week 1 and week 2 on money line. So if you want to wait and play the second half, because I think the Raiders are going to get worn out in the first half playing at altitude. It's brutal if you're not, your conditioning is not that good. But I don't know that Jimmy G is a great fit for what Josh McDaniels wants to do. I know he's there, and you would think that Josh McDaniels would sculpt an offense around him. But I don't know that that's necessarily the case. We'll see if it works. I think this is a game where Denver's run game, Sean Payton leans on the run game, but they do have good depth at receiver and tight end, even without Judy. They'll play those 2 tight end looks with Troutman and Dulcich, and they have some solid young receivers there too. So I think they can get it done. They can score some points here. They can win by at least 4. So I would play Denver minus 3.5 if you could find that in the market.
Also worth noting and I haven't read this entire story, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but Chandler Jones said on Instagram on late Wednesday night, that the Raiders sent a member of a crisis response team to his house, but then later deleted it. And it's like, man, it just you can read about the story on the internet, but it just feels like there's a whole lot just bad juju around the Raiders in terms of this offseason, how they played, and we've seen the hype for the Broncos going into Mile High, never easy in week 1 at the start of the season. It's just hard to get conditioning done for that, and so I like Denver here. Just lean towards it. Don't really have a no best bet on it, but I would look at the Broncos here. And for the next game, Packers or Bears. Bears minus 1.5. The Chicago Bears, the hypiest of the hype train.
I like them.
Yeah, you do like the Bears.
But the Bears just have a play in this game. Yeah.
Yeah, no best bets on that Raiders Broncos game. No best bets on this game either. This line is now down to 1 in some spots. RJ, I'm curious what you think. If there's a discrepancy in your power ratings with these two teams, because the Bear people just want to be on the Bears. I'm not referencing you specifically, Katie. There's a lot of people who are like, oh,
I like the Packers too, but yes, I do want to be on. I do like the Bears.
Yeah, a lot of Bears love to get their power rating up in the market a lot higher than it should be for a team that was the worst in the league last year, had the worst record last year. So have they fixed everything? Probably not. Is the coaching staff going to help them take a step forward? Maybe. Well, I think it's something you have to see. Green Bay has their own question marks with Jordan Love. I locked this in at +2.5 on Sportsline before the move, so we got a good number there. Now I'm a little bit worried with Christian Watson banged up. Who knows if he plays in this game? Romeo Dobbs, I think he might have returned to practice, but who knows how his state is. But I don't know that Jordan Love really needs those guys. I think he can lean on the run game for a lot in this matchup. Throw it to Jaden Reed, throw it to Luke Musgrave, the talented rookies they have there with the receivers banged up, and get it done with mostly the run game, leading the charge against a defense that I don't think is very good. The Bears, they spent a lot in the offseason. They used a lot of their ample cap space on linebacker and guard, two positions that aren't that key to building winners, and the teams really don't build around. There's a reason that the Bills let a guy like Tremaine Edmonds go. They don't want to pay him top dollar because they figure they can go, and we've seen it with the Eagles. They never prioritize linebacker. They let guys go over and over again. And that's just kind of smart team building with a lot of these organizations. The Bears went out and spent on those guys. Maybe it works, but maybe there's too many holes up front and in the back of the defense that other teams can take advantage of. I think Green Bay's the best. The defense is the best unit in this game. They just need to limit Justin Fields' rush total, and I think they'll get out with a win here. My power ratings would make it Green Bay -1 with the line down to the other side +1 in some places. Not that much disparity there. I don't think it's really actionable at this point.
All right, moving on to the next game. Dolphins at Chargers. This is a very high total. It's up to 51. Chargers laying 3 at home. Two quarterbacks that can really slang the ball here, and both of them looking to overcome some challenges from last season. Obviously, the Chargers with that epic collapse in the playoffs to the Jags, and then the Dolphins, a lot of chatter in this offseason about Tua and his health. You got Ryan Clark saying that he looks like a stripper, or his body looks like a stripper, whatever that was. So this is going to be my dog of the weekend. I am taking Miami, the Fins, to win outright, even though I love Justin Herbert and the Chargers, especially now that they are healthy. I like that they have Kellen Moore. I think that the Dallas Cowboys just scope-gated the F out of him, and I think he's going to be really, really good for Justin Herbert. But the Chargers have just found so many ways to lose in so many different ways that until they prove otherwise, I'm really hesitant to back them. I do think that Tua is extra motivated. He's got that tribal tattoo that he's rocking now. No Jalen Ramsey, of course, is a little bit worrisome for the secondary, especially with a pass-happy team like LA. However, I'm really high on Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator. I think that he will scheme up some ways to stop Herbert and get the upset here. So I'm on the Fins for this one. They're +140, I believe. So that's my dog of the weekend. And then RJ, we're on the same prop bet here for Mozterati.
Yeah, we put this in on Sportsline. Raheem Mostert over 52.5 rushing yards on Sportsline. And then I had sent it in for the show when it was 54.5. So I said, okay, we'll take it over 54.5 on the show. I think it's up to like 58.5 now. It just keeps on going up.
Wow.
Because we're looking at a situation where the Chargers are an awful rush defense, and they continue to be an awful rush defense for years.
Brandon Staley's hallmark is they just can't stop the run. I mean,
we talk about it every year, and they just can't stop the run. Now, Miami's going to have to choose to run the ball. They're not really a run-based offense. You know, they like to throw it to their stud receivers. Jalen Waddle is dealing with an injury, but he's practicing. Looks like he'll be fine. The key to this one is Teron Armstead still sidelined. If he doesn't play, Tua's going to have to get the ball out quick, or they're going to expose him to some hits. And I think the way you counter that is to run the ball a lot. And so I think that's going to be the plan. We're going to see a lot more running than we normally would from a Miami team, and that's why I like Mostert going over his rush total. I do believe in Fangio too. I think he can turn around this defense, but I think that they could struggle against good receiver corps without Jalen Ramsey because they just don't have the talent to match up with a lot of good receivers. And the Chargers probably have one of the deepest receiver rooms in the league. It was already pretty good when everybody's healthy before they drafted Quentin Johnston. Now it goes 4 deep with Josh Palmer being probably a better number 3 than a lot of teams have. So I that's the only reason I didn't want to go with Miami is the Armstead injury. And then I just think that's a bad matchup for them defensively. But I do like playing the Mostert play and just thinking Miami's going to run a lot more than people we expect.
Well, McDaniels also apologized to his running back room. So I do think he's going to use it. And you got to think, too, Tua kind of coming back off of injury, maybe want to take a little bit of pressure off him, too, by running the ball. So, yeah, I love the Mostert play.
I dig it. Sunday Night Football. Cowboys at the Giants. Cowboys -3.5. Giants get a little bit of juice there at 115 with a 3.5. The Giants really, I mean, like, I feel like after what a great season that they had last year, the win total was like 6.5. I mean, people are really down on the Giants this year. Tough division, of course. It starts in week 1. I don't know, man. 46.5 here. Katie, I look at this and I think like dog all day.
Dog all day. First of all, Brian Daboll is an actual dog, and they were great against the spread as underdogs last year. Now, I know that the Cowboys are projected to be very, very good. A lot of people have them actually winning the NFC East this year. Sorry, Eagles fans, I'm not necessarily on that train, but I like the dogs at home, and I think that they are going to be barking. So I like this 3.5. RJ, what do you think?
Yeah, we talked about how good home divisional dogs are. I did look up the number 7-0 against the spread the last 5 years, I believe it is. So this is a good spot for a team like this. Now I went against that with some other picks, but we'll look at them and they say they overperformed last year. They did not deserve the wins. They did not deserve the playoff spot, and that's why their win total is 7.5. And people are really fading them this year. Well, these teams don't stay still. They're not resting on the team that they were last year. They go out, they get more different personnel that fits the coaching staff better in year 2. They can build the team in their image the more they want to be in year 2. And I think it's going to make a big impact, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where they could take advantage of this Dallas offensive line, which is not what it used to be going into the season. It used to be like you just locked them in as the best offensive line in the league for years and years. They're not that unit anymore. And now Tyler Smith is hurt. He's on the injury report, might miss this game. That's a big loss for them. So I think that they can get some pressure inside and deal with that. Dallas pass rush is elite, but Daboll can help scheme to neutralize, get Daniel Jones out of the move, help score some points there. And if Dallas is playing his run and defense, it's going to be hard to win big against solid teams. I like catching the 3.5 here to go with a Giants team that is much improved and with a great coaching staff that can that is going to help stave off some of this regression a lot of people are saying. Now, I'm not saying the Giants are going to go out and win 12 games or anything. I just don't think they're as bad as people expect.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. All right, so we have a game tonight, guys. Obviously, Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we definitely should hit on it. The Lion has been on the move with Travis Kelce. He is, I don't know if he's doubtful or how they have him listed tonight.
Questionable.
Yeah, it depends on what you read. Some people say, like his brother says, he should probably be out. It's just once the swelling goes down.
Or Clark Hunt, the owner, was on Good Morning Football today too, and said that he thinks he's sounded pretty optimistic about it. So
not pretty or pretty optimistic.
He sounded pretty optimistic about Kelce playing.
Okay, so if he's pretty optimistic about Kelce playing, and the line is 4.5 now, I would hammer the Chiefs -4.5 all day long. Now, I was worried when this line was at 6 about Detroit coming with a little backdoor cover because Jared Goff is actually the most profitable quarterback against the spread in week 1. He is 6-0, and we do know that this, they know how to put up some points. But then I think about it, and it's like we thought that the Chiefs were going to take a step back last year without Tyreek Hill, and they actually took a step forward. So the entire offense is not built off of Travis Kelce. This line swing to me feels like a bit of an overreaction. What do you think, RJ?
Yeah, you never see non-quarterbacks, cost 2 points on the line like this happens. So I think it is too much. I understand how important he is to that offense. They have some good young talent at receiver they can lean on. They have some running backs they can lean on, especially a good pass catcher in Jerick McKinnon. There are ways that they can scheme around this if they have a good offensive coordinator and a good quarterback. And newsflash here, they have one of the best coaches ever offensively, and they have one of the best quarterbacks probably ever offensively when all is said and done. So they'll be able to get it done. I do like KC -4.5 still. Week 1 with Andy Reid and Mahomes, 38 points, 40 points, 34 points, 33 points, 44 points. They score 30 plus all the time. They'll be able to score their points here. And Detroit was 28th in points per game allowed last year, and I don't see that defense making a huge leap despite the personnel that they brought in. So I think that they're going to go over. I like Pacheco going over 51.5 rush yards. I think that's worth the look with this if Kelce does miss the game. And with Chris Jones out, I think the best play prop wise for this game is David Montgomery anytime touchdown +115. It seems like a lock that he's going to go in, get something in the interior, get some space, and get in from 3, 4, 5 yards out.
I'm on the Chiefs as well. Chiefs -4.5. I put that up on Sportsline. You go check out my profile over there. Use promo code PICK for first month for $1. Also promo code WHITE if you want to commit podcast treason. But whatever. Alex, you got a prop on this as well, don't you?
Prop I love, Brinson. Yeah, I think this matchup just sets up very well for Amon-Ra St. Brown. He continues to be, or he was the engine of the Lions passing offense. Since he's entered the league, I think that's going to continue, obviously, in his third year. His target volume was extremely reliable last year, 29% of his routes. That is the second highest rate in the NFL behind only Tyreek Hill. His targets also come at a very shallow depth, which is great for receptions props as well. We're going over 6.5 receptions here. He was a first read on 21% of his routes. That is 96th percentile. This guy basically checks every single box. This is also a great matchup against the Chiefs, who throw the ball as much as any team in the NFL. That creates a lot of very high volume passing environments. Opponents average 36.9 passing attempts against Kansas City. That was the second most in the NFL. Also, there's fewer kind of competition for St. Brown as well if we look at the rest of these Detroit pass catchers. So I could see him easily eclipsing double-digit targets. There are a lot of high success routes as well, close to the line of scrimmage. I love him to get at least 7 catches tonight.
I don't mind if he gets 7 catches, but I very riskily took him under on his receiving yards tonight, because I did notice that he hit the under in 7 of his last 10 games last year, and the average is about 4 yards higher than what he averaged last year. So we'll see. Very risky. I don't know if that one's going to work out for me. All right, that's going to do it for our show. But Brinson, tell everybody about Sunday night.
Oh yeah, Sunday night we'll have the recap, the Super Friends recap, the show you've known and loved for years. Me, making Ryan Wilson grumpy, along with John Breach, as we recap all of Sunday night's action or Sunday's action. So make sure and tune in live after Sunday Night Football here on the YouTube page.
Yes, absolutely. And also remember to like, comment, and subscribe on that YouTube page. If you're listening to the audio version only, download, follow, leave a 5-star review, tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. Good luck with your bets, and you will see the Super Friends on Sunday night.